I'll start it now. Yes, my Lord and Empress, blessed love, royal family. This is the African Liberation Network, and I'm your host, Honorable Prophet Daniel. Today we have a special guest. His name is Honorable Prophet Enoch. He is from Mexico, and he is a Bobo Shanti, a member of the EABIC, Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress. Blessed love, Honorable Prophet Enoch. Unmute your microphone, please, my Lord. Blessed love, my Lord.
Okay. Yes, my Lord. You hear me now, huh?
Yes, Honorable.
True. Give thanks, my Lord, for life, the life giver, my Lord. Give thanks for the opportunity, to be here with the family, Blessed Lord.
True, my Lord. Blessed love. Yes, Honorable. Could you please introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners? Who is Prophet Enoch? Where are you from?
True, my Lord, Yeah, give thanks, first of all, give thanks for, the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, Church of Salvation, which I am a member, I came to this liberty, on was like 2006, I wanted to go for the Jubilee for the Congress on 2008, so I tried to get some monies and get the language, so I traveled to the US, and get some strength and I learned the language, you know, and I met the brethren, you know, Rasta brethren from the US, you know, in California. And then I met Prophet Muhammad too, you know, and, you know, hold there in the United States until 2011, you know, so I went to the Hill in 2011, you know, then I came back to Mexico and, you know, get to the university, you know, try to get some skills, you know, and education, you know, and I am ingeniero agronomo, you know, how you call it, agronomist, you know. So I am working right now on the north region of Mexico, you know, trying to get some skills too, you know, and prepare our tools for the Congress works still, you know. So yes, my lord, that's who we are, you know. Yes.
True. Yes, Honorable. So I would like for you to kind of tell us what brought you to Rastafari and Bobo Shanti. Yeah, like your experience in life that brought you to Rastafari.
What brought I and I to this culture? Yes, my lord. Well, you know, I think first of all was the music, you know, because we heard as my empress was saying the other day, you know, music was the first document on which we were how we get close to this new knowledge and, you know, wisdom and understanding. Was music was the first thing, you know. We heard those songs and we feel like this is ours too, you know. We feel like, yeah, I feel identified with all this that is talking about in music, you know. We share some history too, you know, so we feel like called to through music, you know. So then that was the first thing. And then we had the opportunity to meet a serious Rasta woman in those days in Mexico by the name of Empress Jasmine, you know. She was an empress that she traveled to the first Hispanic summit for Rastafari in Panama in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And then she came back to Mexico with the culture, you know. Over there, she met some priests from the camp and also some Bobo brethren from Costa Rica, you know. So she came back with the culture to Mexico, and that's how we learn about Bobo Shanti, you know. Yeah, and then we from there start trotting, you know, and start walking this life, this way of life, my lad, from those days until these days, you know. And I can say that we have learned and right now we are on very glorious moments, you know, where we are more conscious of our history than before, you know, when we came to this light, you know. Yes, we are now more conscious of who we are, you know. So I give thanks for that and have this opportunity to reason with the I and royal family, you know, for wins and, yes, you know, reason about our history, my lad, that we share, you know. Yes, my lad.
Give thanks, King. And when you start to trot Bobo Shanti, you know, what do your caretaker, your mother and father, and your family members, what did they think of it, and your friends and everything?
You know, my lad, before I came to Rasta, I was really on the bad throat, you know. I was doing like bad things and getting on violence in the streets and getting drugs and things like that, you know. So my parents were really like they were they were concerned about me, you know, because they say, wow, you are lost, you know. So when I came to Rastafari, my lord, everything changed, man. From one day to the other, I leave all things that were hurting me, you know, and I start trotting in righteousness. So when they see this, they just couldn't believe this, and they say they just respect I and I, you know, when they see that we were walking on the right, you know, and then they see us keeping the Sabbath, you know, they see us living bad ways, you know, so they really feel like they never question I and I, you know, they really uplift me, you know, like make me feel like, yeah, you know what you're doing. Not before, but now you know what you're doing. So yeah, I feel that in those days, you know. Even I know maybe my mother was more like, like you yeah, you're now safe, but now you're coming like kind of I think for my mom is even until these days, you know, she feel like we are like yeah, we're very different, you know. Maybe that's the fear, you know, sometimes that we are different. Yeah.
All right.
But that's who we are, you know. Yeah.
So were you able to show your parents about like Haile Selassie and Marcus Garvey and King Emmanuel and stuff, and you know, tell them about when His Majesty visit to Mexico and all of that?
You know, I think yeah, we try, you know, at the very beginning, but as you keep trotting, you know that sometimes becomes like it's just natural living like that, because they just want to they don't share this, you know, too much. Maybe I don't know if other ones feel the same, you know, with their parents, you know. So at the beginning, yes, because I had more like this, you know, first love, you know, and they was like more like, yeah, everyone have to come to this, and yes, mama and my father too come to this, and they were just like, yeah, you know, they never say no and things like that. But now I see that and I feel like, okay, maybe right now I cannot do it no more, like just say, oh come, no, I just have to love them as they are, and they love me too, you know. So yeah, man.
Yes, so yeah, His Majesty visited Mexico. Can you tell us about his visit and what you know about what he said to the Mexican people?
Yes, my lord. Well, first of all, give thanks for the visit of the emperor, you know, for such, you know, royal visitation to these lands. And it's important to talk about that the visit of His Majesty to Mexico was a friend visit, you know, a friendship visit, because he didn't came. Start my video. He didn't came here as a state visit, you know. He came here because during the Italian War, the people of Mexico, you have to know that in those years, Mexico just had fought for revolution, you know, and it was a popular revolution. So the leaders that came after that revolution, you know, even when some are more like the ones who really established this new idea of what a nation must be, you know, the false nation of Mexico, you know. Also, there are the ones who have the people's idea of what the nation was, you know, that the nation was I mean, you know, we had this special man that is called Lázaro Cárdenas, you know. He was one of the ones who stay more on the he's from the revolution, right? And then he became president too, like in the 30s. And he was a man that the history put him as a righteous man, you know. Most of the ones that were on the revolution, after the revolution, they become like betrayers. How do you say, like they betray people, you know? They betray people, you know, because this was a people movement. And there were Black people in the Mexican Revolution who were at the front, my lad, you know? Popular revolution made by indigenous Black people here in Mexico. So one of these leaders was Lázaro Cárdenas. And this man, he was on, sí, era el presidente cuando fue lo de Etiopía, ¿no? He was on the, no? ¿Quién era? Sí. He was a president when the Italian invasion to Ethiopia happened, you know? Mm-hmm. So he sent some people to the United Nations to raise their voices for Ethiopia, you know? So they kind of defend Ethiopia in those moments, you know? I think we're Mexico and other nations who defend Ethiopia before the League of Nations, you know? That happened like in the 1930s, right? And when His Majesty get back to Ethiopia, he sent like how do you say, like, well, His Majesty came here in 1954, you know? So he said that the visit here was to thank, you know, such, how do you call it, a gesture? Yeah. Yeah, so the visit of His Majesty to Mexico is really important for Rastafari people in Mexico, you know? Yes, Smaila. Don't let me talk too much, you know?
All good. I mean, it's all good information. How many people probably don't know, so it's good. Give thanks. But you mentioned a few terms there while you were reasoning that, you know, sparked my interest. You said indigenous African people, indigenous Black people in Mexico. What do you mean by that?
Well, I say indigenous and Black people, you know, indigenous and Black people in Mexico. Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's, you know, a bit of the topic we were, you know, going to reason this day, you know, the special composition of people in these countries, you know. I mean, sometimes we are used to, when we come to Rastafari, we are more used to learn the history of Jamaica, you know, and United States, you know, because those were countries where slavery is worldwide known to be happen, you know, in those countries. But we know also that there were slavery in all these regions too, you know, in the so-called Latino America. We had a long history of slavery over here too, you know. Mm-hmm. So maybe the difference is that over there in the States and in Jamaica, you all share the British history, you know, that take place in those regions, you know. The people in those countries were colonized by the British, right? But over here in Latino America, the so-called Latino America, the colonizers were the Spanish people, you know? So the history over here in these countries can be a little different from the history of Jamaica or the United States, you know? Even when we come to the topic of Black history, you know? I think Black history is very different. Even within Jamaica and the United States, you find difference on Black history, you know? Even when it's the same Black people that were brought to any of these countries, you know? So the same thing here in Mexico. Black and Blackness is different over here, you know? You find that Black people, Black history, Blackness is more, how do you say, diluted within the whole population, you know?
The what?
Diluted, like when you have
Got you, I got you.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's not like in the Caribbean, right? Like you find the whole island is most is more black people, right? Or in the United States, where you find white population and the black people, you know?
Yes.
Those were like the ethnicities that compounded the colonial history, right? But over here in Mexico, you have that they have a history of a big populations populating these areas when the Spanish came, you know? So you have the indigenous people from these lands, then you have the Spanish and the black people who were brought by the Spanish, you know?
Okay.
So right now it's very difficult that you have, that you find the same history as the United States. If you come to here to Mexico, you are not going to see like the black people you are used to see in the United States or in the Caribbean, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna find that there's still black people over here, you know? Maybe the history is, like I say, more diluted, you know?
Yeah.
Even right now, black people in Mexico are finding how history is really for them, you know, like different from the whole diaspora, you know, and in those in other countries of Latin America too, you know, is very different. Yeah.
So, like, do you have African ancestry yourself?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I could see that, my lad. We could see such heritage too, you know, and it's part of our history, my lad, you know. I mean, as I say, maybe we don't have such like my father or my mother.
Mm-hmm.
They don't call themselves Africans or black, you know.
Yes.
But they don't know who they are too, you know. They don't know who their origin is, you know. But when we come to Rasta, we start looking into our history too. We look into our history and then we find ourselves there. I and I as Rastafari, when we came to this culture, we feel this call, you know, as Ethiopians or as Africans, you know. But I think when we just came in the first days, I could see that it were more like a spiritual or religious concept, you know. But right now, through history, my lad, we can identify ourselves as that part of the Black history here in Mexico too, because some of us within the Rastafari community in Mexico have some Black ancestry in our family too, you know? So right now it's being more like a new time for Rastafari in these countries, you know, because some of them are finding that they are also part of that history, you know, like we are that voice. Check. In my family, especially, you know, I have my 4 grandparents, you know, 3 of them. They are not like speaking some indigenous language, but I can see that they are more within the indigenous features, you know. But in my mother's side, you know, within that side, I can see my grandma and her sisters. They have some Black history in them, you know. Yes. But as I say, it's different in these countries. You know, you are going to find a lot of people who have some Black features in them, but they don't call themselves Blacks, you know, or Africans, you know. But it's time for us to see it and, you know, just be that voice, because if within my family, I have a Black man or a Black woman who was my ancestor, and it's part of my history and what it makes me to be a man in this time, then I have to be that voice. I mean, and I feel like we are that voice of such ancestors in our family, you know? And yes, we feel part of such history, my lad. Yeah.
Yes, my Lord. So like in Bobo Shanti culture, they say either you're black or you're white. There's no nothing. So like in Mexico now, how would black and white be defined?
Wow. You mean within the race concept?
Well, no, I don't know. However you want to call it. I mean, but you have black people in Mexico, yes?
Yes.
You have white people in Mexico, right?
Yes. Yes, we have white people too, man.
So so what is like who's black and who's white? Is there any other, Yeah, like all right, because now we're talking reparations, and
I think
repatriation.
could not apply, Myla. I think could not be applied same here in Mexico, like you have the black and you have the white. Yes, you can find some people who say, yeah, I'm more on the black side, or I feel more in the white side. Yeah, I mean, maybe the ones who are on the white side, they just are white. They don't have to be called themselves white because they are the ones who are privileged, They don't have to be named because they just are, But the one who is more on the black side, we need to find ourselves who we are, The white people know, man. They don't know, they know who they are, But the ones who are on the shores, on the peripheria, how we call it, we have to find who we are, And yes, some of us find more like identify within the black current, But some of our brethren still feel more identified within the indigenous. And some of them also say, okay, I am in the middle, and I have to stand for both of them, My family is indigenous and I have black blood too. So we have to stand for that voice of our ancestors too, Myla, because it's who we are, Yeah, man. And I just give thanks for not being in the oppressor side, Yeah.
Yes, my Lord. Yeah. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. What is black and white? I don't think it's about race necessarily. But all right, Marcus Garvey, yeah, the UNIA, he said, "Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will," and Africa for the Africans, those at home and us abroad. So, like, how now would say the I, as a Mexican who has indigenous ancestry and also African ancestry, how would you identify with Marcus Garvey and his message? And how, if you were to tell other Mexicans about it, how would you, give what message is it that you relate to as a Mexican as regards Marcus Garvey?
Yes, my lord. Well, I think we have to unite, we have to unite, we have to come together all, and we have to include all how we call it, all wings within the black movement here in Mexico, because there are a lot of we can say like wings, like different black movements over here, and I think Rastafari is one of them. And especially Rasta people in Mexico have to be more strong on standing within this African history and the black movement, which Rastafari represents in Mexico. So it's not like we are going to save the rest of black people in Mexico, but we just have to unite because we share history, And Marcus Garvey is talking to us about this, I remember reading one speech of Marcus, which says that the same oppression that the black man have, and the same oppression that the brown man have, and the same oppression that the yellow man have, and the same oppression that the red man have, at the end is going to bring them together to rise against that particular oppression which is being held to all of them, which is white people and white powers, So I would say Marcus Garvey here in Mexico is to unite also all people who is oppressed, who is being who have been kept away from their history, you know? Yeah, Marcus Garvey makes sense for any Black people or any indigenous people here in Mexico, you know? I could say that, I could feel it, you know? Like, it's just like we share the same history, you know? And we have to just give thanks for all those who stand to be a voice for freedom here in this world, you know? Yeah, man.
My Lord. Give thanks, you know. It really gives clearance, you know, to understand how you, as a Mexican, one with indigenous, so-called Mexican, do you accept that title, Mexican?
It's complicated, you know, nothing is easy, I think, my lad, and just give thanks for the reasoning, you know, but especially when you come to the name of Mexico, we have to enter into the topic of how nations become, you know, and when you come to the special nation of Mexico, you find that it's a nation that it doesn't make any sense for the history of these people, you know, because the people who found this nation, they had the idea of disappearing all ethnicities, you know, all original inhabitants of these places. When I say originals, I include also Black people, because within the Mexican construction of nationhood, indigenous are not included, neither Black people, you know. When they say Mexican, they are talking about the mixing of everything, you know. They say that they created a new race called the, ¿cómo se dice? The raza de bronce, you know. They call it that, like a bronze, or is a metal, my lad, bronze. ¿Cómo se dice bronce? Bronze, it's a metal, but I don't know.
We say bronze.
Ah, yeah, bronze, the bronze race, you know.
Okay.
There were these thinker on these years when the Mexicanity was being built, and one of these thinkers is Jose Vasconcelos, you know, which were a white man, you know. You see, a white man saying, you know, we are all one, you know, and it's like, we are one, but not with you, you know, because nation was for them, man. Yeah. My lad, they build all these nations for themselves, man. So we cannot feel included in these nations, you know? Not like Black or not like indigenous. When you go to the indigenous people here in Mexico, they feel themselves indigenous, like Mexicans, my lad. But when you come to the Black people in Mexico, my lad, that's the tragedy of the colony. Black people in Mexico don't know their history, my lad. And they feel Mexicans, but they feel Black too, you know? But the whole idea of Mexicanity, I think, is into Black people more than the indigenous, you know? Because the indigenous is more like, no, we hold on to our language, we know who we are. But Black people, no, my lad. Black people speak Spanish, you know? So it's kind of a tragedy, my lad.
So now, when it comes to, you know, the culture, every man to his own vine and fig tree. So now, what would you consider your vine and fig tree? You know, with your being who you are. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yes, my lad. You know, when we come to that topic, you know, I really, to be honest with myself, I feel like I was brought to this place where I am because of a reason too, you know. I have a a role to play in this time in history and within prophecy too, you know. And I feel like I have to feel this land as a part of my portion within creation, you know, and also have to be conscious of my history, you know. Yeah, man. And as I say, my history is like we explained before, you know, it's built on all these components, you know. Yeah.
So you feel like that land that you live in is more your, you would say, your place on earth.
Yeah, I mean, I feel, yeah, man. I feel it like that, my lad. I feel like that, and I feel also a strong brotherhood with the whole people who are being share the same colonial sufferings, you know. We are like, I think, my lad, that idea of who is going to stay in this continent or who is going to Africa, I don't know. My question would be, okay. What's the relevance of that question for the people in? Because I think you asked that question because you see like people claiming to go to Africa, right? And maybe you feel like
I really just wanted to know your perspective. Really, that's it. It's not because I think anything. Or
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, natural, my lad. Natural. Yeah, man. I feel it like that, my lad. You know, I really feel this place like my Zion. You know. Yeah, man. I mean, and I'm being true to myself when I say that. You know. Yes, my lad. But I feel also a love for Africa. You know, and for the continent. You know, I feel it like natural within ourselves too. You know.
Yes,
Yeah.
man. Well, give thanks for your honesty, you know. Yeah, I don't have, there was no underlying reason as to why I asked. I mean, because my reason for being a Bobo Shanti may be a little different than yours because we have a different upbringing and things like that, and we live in different countries. So I just really would like to have some insight, you know, into what your perspective as a Bobo Shanti is, you know. And even it might inspire someone else who's from Mexico or of an indigenous, you know, set of people in maybe the Americas or anywhere, you know, other than Africa, where they could relate to the Black Christ the same way, you know.
Gotcha.
You see?
Yeah, man.
Yes, sorry.
True.
So, yeah, I don't really have too many more questions, you know. If there was anything else that I wanted to share while you have the platform, or if there's anything you have going on that you wanted to talk about or bring attention to, you have the floor for a moment, and then we'll just seal the reasoning.
True. Yes, my lad. Well, I mean, I think the very reason of having this, you know, moment to share this, it was for sharing such history too, you know, that happened over here, and I think it's very important for the people in the island or in the US to know this history too, because yeah, man, I mean, it's part of Black history too, my lad, you know. It's part of that Black history, and as we are asking the British for reparations, the people who is over here in the so-called Latin America, we have to, you know, ask to the former colonies, you know, like the Spaniards or the Portuguese in the case of Brazil, you know. Yeah, I mean, we speak the same language, so maybe I don't know, when we came to the movement and over here in Latin America, I feel like we are maybe sometimes trying to emulate, you know, just what we see as what is being a bubble, you know, and just want to, you know, be the more close you can to the culture and, you know, the ways of salvation and yeah, man. But when it comes to the topic of who you are and history, you know, like asking yourselves who you are, I think that is being lacked in Latin America, you know, and that brings a kind of not actioning on how would to be, you know, yeah, man.
You said it brings a what? Sorry.
On action, I say on action, my lad. Yeah, like black people in the US or in the Caribbean, it's like, yeah, we have to agitate for letting know these wicked white countries on where we are, that we don't want to be held no more longer here, and that we are being treated oppression here and all this violence, you know. But what the people in Latin America, what we are doing, you know, what is our social path on this, you know, because more time is being more seen like a religious movement, you know.
So, well, one last question then. How do you think Bobo Shanti culture could help your, like, people like you know, people with similar, say, heritage or whatever, not necessarily just like Mexican, but, you know, in the Americas, people that are indigenous, how can Bobo Shanti help to advance their cause?
Yeah, because it brings the knowledge of history for themselves, you know, and when you become aware of your history, then you can move in the world, you know. It's like sometimes we are just repeating things and we don't know where they come from, you know, and we have to be conscious of that, you know. Yeah.
Give thanks, Honorable Prophet Enoch. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing your experience and, you know, giving us insight into your life and your perspective, my Lord.
True.
It's honorable. Give thanks for everyone who tuned in and listened to the reasoning. And until next time, blessed love, royal family. Most High, Selassie,
Yeah.
Rasta. My
Bless
Lord,
love, my lad. Give them.
blessed love, honorable.
True. Muy rápido, ¿no?